Serving up a warm dish of the Triad's culinary fare, here's your weekly helping of food, news, and views. This is the man who ate the town.
Hey folks, and welcome to episode 183 of the Man Who Ate the Town podcast. This is for the week of January the 18th through the 24th, 2021. My name is Tim Beeman.
My name's Ray Morgan.
And we are opening.
And you are excused.
Thank you. As you're excusing me, I'm going to open this recipe box. That was kind of quiet. I have to shut it first. Hold on. Now let's open it again. All right, there we go.
There we go. Yeah, we heard that.
We are recording this episode of The Man Who Ate the Town in the Less Desirable Studio South, a.k.a. my house. We are practicing social distancing and using Zoom, sponsored by Bull's Tavern here in Winston-Salem.
Thanks, Danielle.
We will have a guest on the podcast today. Daniel Spivey, the head of development for Broad Branch Distillery, is coming, so stay tuned. He's got a big announcement to talk about. And also, welcome to everyone listening to us on the Triad Podcast Network. We're very happy to be partnering with Adam to bring his listeners the premier food podcast for Winston-Salem and the surrounding areas. Cool. Outside that, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anything like that, any of those aggregators, we would appreciate a like and a rating. It would help us greatly. Another thing, Leah is not here because she's on a retreat this weekend. She did not realize that today is Martin Luther King Jr. Day, and Mel said, let's go to the mountains, and she's like, okay, and so we can't fault her for that, and happy Martin Luther King Jr. Day to all the listeners, and to you, Ray.
There you go. I'm sorry. Thank you. I couldn't help but hear, retreat, run away.
Well, you know, as hard as she's working and as hard as Mel's working, and especially in the medical field, retreat is probably a good saying right now. Retreat.
Wave the white flag and go find some time alone.
That's right. All right, so we have a lot to go through, so let's do it. I just realized that Canteen posted in December that it was closed until the end of this month. I don't know why I just realized that. I think because they weren't very conspicuous about it. I had to actually do some digging. And did you know also that when the Oleo closed last year in West End Millworks, that the Porch took over that spot and now has open air seating?
I did not know that.
Well,
There's quite a bit of space in there.
Yeah, there is. And so it's open air kind of. And it will be definitely during the warmer months, but they roll the door about a quarter of the way up so air can circulate better. We ate there this weekend, and we sat in one of the bubble tents outside.
Saw some pictures of those. Yeah, those are cool.
Yeah, it was good. It was easy, and we felt good about eating at a local place.
So Oleo is out of there entirely.
Yeah, they couldn't sustain. They were having trouble before the pandemic, and pandemic just drove Rebecca and company out. So
that's a sad thing. I think they were the only ones in town actually making glass here in the area.
Yeah. Just a few months after reopening, local artisan announced that they are scaling back the dinner service, but they will revisit the concept in the spring. I suppose people weren't coming downtown due to C-19 and it just wasn't feasible to them. The concept, I think, is great, but without people down there, it's hard to maintain. I hope they get back up and running. They did add another day to the lunch service, however, so now they are open Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Our sponsor, Diamondback Grill, is casual dining located in the heart of Buena Vista in Winston-Salem, and it is a fantastic family-owned farm-to-fork restaurant that sources most of its ingredients from local farmers, which means the food is always fresh. Last week we talked about Diamondback Grill rolling out its new specials menu, and the pictures that they've been posting look quite delicious. So you need to get over to Avalon Road and grab some specials. Don't worry, they have their regular seasonal menus available as well. They have it takeout, dine in, whatever you need to do. Find them on the web, diamondbackgrill.com, and on Facebook and Instagram. So Cibo Italian restaurant now will open at 4:30 on Saturdays, and they have taken over at Cibo. And then there's the locksmith that's been there since like the 40s or something. That's still open. They have like a 99-year lease or something. And so beside that, there's a little courtyard, a little garden area. Well, Cibo has taken over that and covered it, and now it's a heated patio. So people can sit outside while still enjoying their Italian food at Cibo. So I think that's a cool thing.
I love way people are being creative to try to make this work.
Yes. I mean, it's all about pivoting. I think that's an overused term, but in this case, it works.
Yeah.
For the sexual chocolate fans out there, Foothills announced that the release for this year's batch will be Friday, the 5th of February. I know people love this beer, and I do enjoy it, but I do not myself participate in gimmick beer. What I mean is I am not standing in line and jumping through hoops for beer. Unless it's free, I might step through a hoop. I don't know about jumping through one, but I might step through it.
I'll walk through there. I'll saunter through the hoop, but I ain't jumping for nothing.
Someone might have to help me lift my legs up to put me through that hoop. But
you might jump for the BCPF.
Yes, well, that's the only thing I jump for. And she says jump, and then I say how high. I say jump, and she says how high would she have to be to listen to what I said. So, so Sexual Chocolate comes out on Friday the 5th.
I always love that beer.
Yeah, and I especially like the bourbon barrel aged.
Yes,
because it kicks up the alcohol a little bit. Yeah,
it's so good. But now with you, this is not a beer I would want to drink every day.
I would have it every day if I had it every day.
I think at a certain point, I'd be like, all right, that's enough of that.
I mean, I wouldn't want
some regular beer.
I wouldn't want like a whole 6-pack a day. I would have other beers in the day as well, but I would have Sexual Chocolate if I had Sexual Chocolate. Since it's seasonal and such a gimmicky thing, then it doesn't come out all the time. So, if I had it
once a year,
I would have it. This past Friday, January the 15th, Mayor Alan Joynes proclaimed it Opie Day. Special congratulations to Philip Kirby, known to just about everyone as Opie. He owns Finnegan's Wake, and while he is the face of that company, he makes a big deal about his employees, and while I think he doesn't take nearly enough credit for what he does, I give him mad props for making sure the kids, quote unquote, as he calls them, get the credit they deserve too. So way to go, Opie, for having Opie Day, January the 15th.
Way to go. And thank you, Mayor Joynes, for paying attention to what's happening in your city and calling out the good stuff that's going on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We got a lot of good stuff happening, and he's usually really good about pointing that out. I mean,
well, he did declare Daniel Butner Day.
Daniel Butner Day, exactly. So, Dario is opening its Stanleyville location today. It opened 2 hours ago from what time we're doing this. So, the 18th of January.
Why are we broadcasting from there?
That's what I was wondering myself. Why don't we get over there?
It's like, Dario, that sounds pretty good right now.
Another sponsor of our Mojitos will have their food truck decal wrapped tomorrow. And voila,
nice.
Mojitos food truck becomes the Tuning Fork Provision Company. And
Cool.
we'll start serving fiddling fish and areas because, Broad Branch is there and Sunshine is there, and across the street, Wiseman and all those things, even Mojito. Ramcat. It's an American bar food like burgers and fries, but I'm really looking forward to trying the Winston hot beef and cheese. To me, that just sounds delicious. They'll also have salads and brats and more. And don't forget that you can order from Mojitos themselves and have their delicious Latino food delivered across the street to Fiddling Fish and Broad Branch and all those things as well.
Nice.
Although nothing is mentioned on their Facebook page, Murphy's Lunch, their answering machine, says that they are planning to return on March the 1st.
That's good.
Yes, this downtown staple for like 60 years is missed. You know, this along with the lighthouse held a beacon, if you will, pun definitely intended, for downtown history as far as food goes. And we've already lost the lighthouse, at least for the time being. We just need Murphy's back. I don't want us to lose that. You know, we lost Dill Pickle a few years back. That was there too. You know, it was Lighthouse, Dill Pickle, and Murphy's Lunch that were downtown staples.
Yeah.
And two of those three are now not there. So we need to make sure we don't lose that.
Staples are taking their place.
Oh, I agree. But you know, we're early history on that. We need some of the stuff that have an established history.
Well, and Murphy's was the place. If you had anything to do with the legal community,
yes,
they probably knew your name at Murphy's.
Yes. I've only eaten there like 3 times, but what I had was fantastic. But, you know, just the stories that I would hear other people tell about that and stuff. And it's just been there forever. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah.
Just quietly, just in the most perfect spot, right across the street from the courthouse. Yeah. Quick food, you know, folks that are dealing with this don't have a lot of time to go in and sit and eat. There's like, I need something quick.
Yeah.
Here you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I'm glad to hear they're coming back. That's good news.
I actually called them to find out if there was any news, and that's when I heard the answer machine. I called them in December, and they didn't have any change. So they actually said, Happy New Year and pandemic and March 1st. So I knew that it wasn't something old and recycled. This was at least thought going into that. So I felt better about it. Ray, have you heard of and I know you don't live in Winston-Salem, but you keep up with a lot of things around Winston-Salem, this hashtag Takeout Pledge Winston-Salem or hashtag Takeout Pledge WS?
I have not. What's going on with that?
Well, it's a self-contained pledge that you make to patronize local businesses twice a week. Despite its name, the pledge is meant for all Winston-Salem-based businesses. It's not just food. You can eat in, take out, call ahead, shop, support local business by including that hashtag on your social media posts. It's not a call to action per se, and it's not a full-on movement. It's just really holding yourself accountable to that you are doing what you can to help small business in Winston-Salem. So if
you're not intentional about what you're doing, then you miss out on opportunities. I think it's a great idea to say, yes, it is my intention that I will do this consistently.
Right. And I did patronize a couple of places this weekend, and I didn't make any social media posts about it, but I took some pictures. So I will put those on social media. I don't know about today. Today's going to be a long day, but next couple days.
You know, that it occurs to me, Whitney and I went out to Clementine's this weekend with her mom. And we really, after hearing Chef Anton talk about it, I was like, man, that just sounds so good. So, yeah, we went. I've got pictures of all of it. I need to post it with that hashtag. Wasn't aware of that, or I probably would have already. But, man, that was so good. I'm telling y'all, what you heard a week ago and what Tim's experience was underscored like 12 times. The food was amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad that you went there, so it wasn't just like me kissing somebody's butt, you know. So, and, you know, and that's not what I do. And you can ask even Daniel Butner from Carrabba's. He will tell you that what he likes about me is that I don't tear anybody down, but I don't kiss a lot of butt either. I tell you what I think.
Right.
He says, I always know when something's up whenever you just say, I had it.
It's like, you learned if you don't have anything good to say.
That's right.
Don't say
That's
anything.
right. And he says, and that's, you're not being presumptuous with anything, and you're not making up stuff that's not true. People trust you to make the right call, and the right call for me. Now, I always say, no matter what, take your own chance on it, and I'm just giving you my opinion. And I'm glad that your opinion was just like mine, and that it was worth the time for your wife and your mother-in-law. How'd your mother-in-law like it?
Loved it. I don't think I can remember the name of the bowl now, but it really good. I had a little taste of that. Lots of tomatoes and onions, and just a bright dish. There's a beautiful egg right there on the middle of this.
Yeah.
Whitney got one that was avocado and lime and cilantro with like scrambled eggs and toast and all. The lime and cilantro was like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
Me, I got the Italian sausage and spinach with the sunny side egg up on top of the focaccia bread.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's like these were all just simple ingredients,
yeah.
right? There's nothing terribly over the top, but it was how they were prepared and how they were presented and put together. It's like, man, this is good. We got a bowl of the corn clam chowder and had them bring it out first like an appetizer, and all three of us were sampling this going, man, can we get like a gallon of this? Oh, it was so creamy that we were asking, what's in it? They said, well, your main seasoning is is a thyme and rosemary. Yeah. It's like, okay, but what else is in this? Because I can't identify. They weren't going to tell us. We did ask if Chef was in, but he wasn't there on Saturday morning when we went. But what a great experience. Got big windows looking out on Winston-Salem downtown scene. All of the protocols that you would want to see were in place. We were well away from anybody else seating there. Mm-hmm. On the whole, really a good experience, and I would highly recommend if y'all haven't tried Clementine.
Well,
I
made my reservations for 6 consecutive Fridays for the Roar pop-ups that are going to happen.
Yes.
Now we're going to have to be creative because Stephanie doesn't like to eat inside, and that scares her and things like that. But I have heard back from Chef Kevin, who we talked with. He says mm-hmm. that the staff know about us and will accommodate whatever we need to do. If we need to put a table outside, whatever we need to do, we'll work it out. So
nice.
So nice. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, me too.
I found out that Miyako, which was my favorite sushi place in town, has been sold, and all the employees were fired except for the main sushi chef, Mop. They converted to some chain called Shiki and got rid of all the Miyako rolls and sushi offerings that they had. That's what made Miyako unique for me. A former and founding employee who left when the purge happened says he's talking with a prominent restaurateur about opening a sushi place and implementing those rolls in a building where development is already in the works. I can't say who or where that involves right now, but if it does happen, you heard it here first. So
you heard the almost part of it right there.
Yeah. It's not anything that I've talked about in the last while. It's there's property owned by somebody who has restaurants that is looking for something to put in there, and this may be it. That's all I can really say.
We do have some available property around town, so it could be any number of places.
Yep. Mission Pizza this past Friday celebrated 7 years. They turned 7 this past Friday.
That's awesome.
Peyton posted about it, and there weren't too many F-bombs in it, and
Not too many.
Yeah.
Plenty, but not too many.
Yeah. No, he's a great guy, and he's just outspoken, and he was happy to celebrate. So. And I heard a rumor that TJ's Deli on Country Club was sold recently to the people who own Duke's, and supposedly nothing will change. As I say that, I also want to say that their Facebook page is gone. I don't know that it's Duke's that took the page down, as they don't keep up with their own social media, much less anything new. We'll just see what happens. Duke's page said nothing of the acquisition. Again, Duke's doesn't really do a lot of updating on their social media channels. But when I checked TJ this morning, TJ's Deli on Country Club, it said the page doesn't exist or the link is broken or something, and generally that means they're undergoing a change or they resolve that and are going to start something else. So I don't know what's going on. As I find out, I will keep you posted.
That was a different set of owners than the ones from the TJ's over off Peters Creek.
Yeah, I think so. I think in the beginning, I think it was the same, and then they separated, I think, over time. The one on Peters Creek I know is still open. I ate there a week and a half ago.
I've always loved their Super Jam.
You know, I had one of those for the first time a week and a half ago, and I was nonplussed.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, it could have been that it was just so hot that it burned my tongue and I couldn't taste anything. But it was I was kind of disappointed. Not saying that it's not usually good. Just what I had, I was not impressed with.
Yeah,
but
I think I had my first one like 30 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah,
Been a while.
It has been a while. All right, it's time for Getting in Your Business, and we want to welcome from Broad Branch Distillery. This is the head of distillering.
On the wares already.
Yes, I'm slurring. I'm talking in cursive already. I'm not even started drinking. It's just the thought of what we're going to talk about. The development head of brand development at Broad Branch Distillery. This is Mr. Daniel Spivey. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate the opportunity to come out and talk a little bit more about the distillery and our new bourbon release.
So yes, and oh, God, that. So let's talk about this bourbon release, because that is a big deal.
It is. We are really excited. This specific barrel has been a 5-year process for the distillery. So, I mean, first, just imagine the sheer amount of patience it takes for a distillery owner and distillery staff to lay down a barrel of whiskey and just know that best case scenario, it's going to be at least 4 years before we can put it into a barrel.
Yeah. That's always been my question with stuff like that. I mean, that requires some patience like nobody's business. How do you do that?
You just have to keep reminding yourself that you can't rush aging. You know, all the chemical processes that happen in a 53-gallon barrel, whether it's, esterification, which is the sort of development of flavors, or, the spirit starting to break down those wood sugars to start pulling in those caramel and vanilla flavors, which that starts happening about the 2-year mark. You just have to keep reminding yourself and telling yourself, we have to wait at least 4 years before this is going to be the product we're willing to put in a bottle. I mean, because for us, it's about only putting something in a bottle that we think people will drink neat. If we don't like it in a glass with no ice, then we're not putting it in the bottle. So
that brings me to my follow-up question then. What happens if something goes wrong and you don't realize it till year 4 or 5, and it's just a waste? What happens then?
So I would say there's never really going to be a waste. you know, we say if we pop a barrel of bourbon or rye at the 4-year mark to give it a taste, and it's not quite where we want it, we're okay with that because something special could happen the next year.
Sure.
And we cap that barrel and make a note on the barrel inventory, and we'll come back to it later.
Okay.
We are starting, you know, we opened the doors of the facility in 2015, and then we got our DSP, which is your federal license to be able to either distill or, you know, what's called transfer and bond, which is buying bulk spirit from, you know, a different distillery and then putting that in a bottle. But after, you know, 5 years of being in the facility, we're starting to get a much better idea of how barrels are going to age and what types of flavors we can expect at 2 years, at 3 years, at 4 years, at 5 years. So it does make, you know, at this point, it's a lot easier for us to gauge what's going to happen with distillate, whether it's a rum, a rye, or a bourbon. So there's never really a waste. If we didn't, for bourbon, an instance, if we don't like it at 4 years, not a problem. We just move that barrel over, make a note, and we'll come back and check it a year or so later.
So do you, if you're familiar with the musical term, a round, so you have, you know, you have a verse starting here, and then about halfway through the next person starts, and then halfway through that the next person starts singing, right? So with this, do you make one and then about a year into it start making the next one so you have constant rotation, or how does that work?
So Joe Taffy, one of our distillers, does a lot of our sort of focus on operations. He's sort of the operations manager and one of our distillers. So he has
a damn fine piano player too.
I knew he was a musician. I didn't realize he was a gifted pianist.
Oh yeah.
Don Jenkins, our other distiller, is also a fairly gifted musician.
A drummer, yeah. So they're in a band together called Suitcase. They do really good stuff.
They told me about the band. I actually haven't had a chance to listen to any of the music they've made, but I'm sure that's going to be happening soon. But yeah, Joe has a full production schedule, and we know throughout the course of the year when we're doing rum, when we're going to do whiskeys, which will include, you know, our bourbon and our rye, and then we have a bunch of one-off whiskeys in the back. And so the production schedule is the production schedule, and you know, it's all planned out to where, you know, we're looking 3, 4, 5 years down the road of what do we think we're going to need for, you know, 3 years from now when it comes to something like bourbon or rye or rum. So every year we've been increasing production to, you know, be able to keep pace with growth we see in the next 5 years.
Awesome. So tell us about the finally Winston's getting its own bourbon. So tell us about that.
So Big Winston Bourbon, it's really exciting. The first 100 bottles will be going on sale tomorrow, which is Tuesday the 19th at noon. We'll be selling those via our website, and those are all going to be hand signed and hand numbered by our owner, John Dick. And then the rest of the barrel, which should be roughly 150 bottles, will go on sale to the general public on Saturday the 23rd, and it's a distillery only release right now. So people are going to have to come to the distillery to get it. We really wanted to make sure that people within the Winston-Salem community were able to get the first bourbon coming out of Winston-Salem. So we only put a few cases into the ABC system, mainly geared towards trying to get it to some of the local restaurants. So if people weren't able to get a bottle directly from the distillery, they would still have the opportunity to be able to go to some of the local places and taste it.
Is the
specific bourbon?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, you go.
Oh, I was going to say this specific release, and the vast majority of our bourbon is all a low rye mash bill. If you're not familiar with mash bills, ours is 86% corn, 8% malted barley, and 6% rye. Fairly uncommon type of mash bill in the modern sort of bourbon world. Most people are leaning towards high rye bourbons, which tend to be a lot sort of spicier. You get a lot more of the cinnamon, nutmeg notes, or wheated bourbons, which tend to be a bit softer and more fruit forward. We just really like these low rise, especially at some of the lower proofs and when they're younger. High rye bourbons tend to have those spice notes that fall, right on the proof point and make them drink a little hotter than they actually are. So we're really happy with how this low rye mash turned out.
Awesome. So does this count towards the one bottle per year, or is that still a thing?
No. So North Carolina actually completely got rid of that. You can now buy as many bottles as you want directly from a distillery. The only thing, if say you were planning a large event where you were going to need a lot of alcohol, an individual can only purchase its 40 liters of distilled spirit at one time, and then you have to fill out a form and have it with you as you're transporting it.
Sure.
But we're not having people that come in to buy 53 bottles of whiskey at a time.
No, that's silly. So,
I mean, we wouldn't complain.
No.
No. And am I correct? The restaurants can't come in and buy from you. They have to buy through the ABC system.
Correct. They have to go to wherever their local mixed beverage warehouse is, because they have a completely separate sort of warehouse and buying infrastructure for restaurants and bars.
So what can the imbiber expect from Big Winston Bourbon?
So as a low rye, we're getting a lot of sort of tart cherry, big sort of vanilla cream on the palate, and it's a lightly sweetened vanilla cream. I actually talked a lot about tasting notes and nosing notes with on a live Instagram television tasting with a few North Carolina whiskey personalities Friday evening. And if any of your listeners want to check it out, the video is on Instagram, posted on Anthony Riccardi, known as the Bourbon Whiskey Library's Instagram page. It's about 50 minutes. I sat down with him and a fellow named Trey Wade, both big into the both national whiskey community and the North Carolina whiskey community. Anthony is a founder of a group called the Bourbon Thieves that is doing a lot to help out the whiskey community. And then Trey is he does a lot of work with the Black Bourbon Society and sort of increasing sort of representation and diversity within the American distilling community.
Awesome.
So yeah, we sat down for about an hour, tasted through the bourbon, talked about all the wonderful tasty notes and nosy notes and the finish that goes with it. So like I was saying, you'll get some tart cherry, a nice sort of pistachio nuttiness, of course vanilla, caramel. I pick up a bit of black pepper, and a nice surprisingly long finish for an 85 proof bourbon, which we believe it's because we don't chill filter anything, which when you chill filter a spirit, it'll strip lipids and fatty acids out of it, which make it a little thinner and not quite as flavorful. And because we didn't do any chill filtration, the actual spirit itself is a bit heavier and thicker, almost oily. It really coats the mouth, and allows those flavors to linger longer.
Yeah, see, I am a huge bourbon fan, and I don't like the stuff that is just off flavored water. I like it to have some heft and some body and good mouthfeel.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
it's an experience. It's not like drinking water.
Right. And I was telling you, Daniel, on the phone the other day that one of my business partners gave me a bottle of Ragged Branch bourbon that he and friends went in on for the barrel, and
right.
I love the flavor of it, but it's a bit much, and I haven't quite found what to cut it with because I'm not a water cutter. I don't use water to cut just because I think that's just ruins it. I need something with some substance to it. So you and I were talking, and I said I'm thinking I might try just like a dropper or two of either like club soda or ginger ale even, but nothing to really alter the flavor as much as just to give some kind of substance to it.
Kind of bring down the heat point on it.
Yeah. Because it bites. I mean, my tongue, my teeth feel like they're fighting each other whenever I drink it. Love the flavor, but it's not fun for the next few minutes, you know. So.
Yeah. Was that the barrel pick that the Rickhouse Rambling guys did?
I'm not sure. My friend John Lauder he's originally from the DC area, and he has a lot of friends up there, and they go about every 2 or 3 years, they go in together on a barrel of something.
Nice.
And it was like Four Roses or something like that. The last time, this time it was Ragged Branch. So they just pick one and go with it. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so it's not the same thing every time. It's a different distiller.
Yeah, barrel picks they're still probably one of the best values in bourbon out there. You know, with all the different groups that are doing them, you can get some really fun, unique whiskeys for, you know, maybe $5 to $10 more than a standard bottling of that would be. And you're seeing a ton of growth in that market right now.
Yeah.
Like distilleries that would have never done single barrel picks 10 years ago are, you know, bringing employees on just to manage new programs that they're standing up. Because when you start looking at, you know, the limited releases that come out every year that everyone scrambles to get, they're almost impossible for the average person to get. So to find sort of those special one-off barrels or, you know, small batch expressions, the sort of private select or barrel pick community has just exploded recently.
Yeah. So is that something that Broad Branch might look into, or is it just right now you're not big enough, or how does that work?
It's something we've talked about it, and it's definitely on the table for being a possibility sometime in the next couple of years. I think right now with us, you know, we brought the Boykin brand online in December.
Yeah.
So we have to make sure that we can keep barrels set aside for that, and then also be able to, you know, bottle stuff underneath, you know, the big Broad Branch brand. And, you know, once we get a really good feel for how everything's going to be moving forward barrel wise, you know, a couple single barrel picks a year is definitely on the table for different whiskey groups. And we definitely want to sort of focus on North Carolina whiskey groups, which North Carolina has a ton of good sort of whiskey societies or whiskey clubs. You know, you have Bull City Bourbon up out of the Raleigh-Durham area. You have the North Carolina Bourbon Society, who does a ton of charity work. They do a big sort of charity auction every year. You know, there's Smoke and Barrel Society, which is, you know, more out of the Fort Bragg area. It's a group set up by, you know, a bunch of service members down there. And, you know, that's just scratching the surface of all the whiskey societies here in North Carolina. Heck, I started one for the Winston-Salem area called the Camel City Whiskey Society, just so we can get a lot more of those interesting, you know, whiskeys that people want here into the Winston-Salem area.
Yeah, so how does one go and join that?
Well, right now, ours isn't a membership-based society. That will probably happen, you know, sometime in the future as sort of popularity and whatnot grows.
So is that going to be open for bloggers and podcasters?
It will be, definitely.
I can bring you some airtime for it.
Right. Yeah, it was, it was fun, and it's one of the things I love about the team we have together on the distillery. So, I sat down with the distillery team, and I was like, hey guys, I want to start a whiskey society for the Winston-Salem area as a way to, get other interesting whiskeys to come in, but also to be, an additional education point for people in this area on different styles of bourbon, different styles of rye, and what things are happening out there. And we're all sort of whiskey nerds at the distillery, and everyone was like, that sounds like a great idea. Like, go forth and prosper. And I was like, This is wonderful. And, it's nice when you're doing sort of a brand development job where, my job is to promote the distillery and everything that they're making. But when the team you work with, sees the value in just a wider ranging whiskey education or spirits education for our local community, and they value that and they fully support it, it's just a great environment to be.
Awesome. What else is happening over at Broad Branch right now?
Ooh, we have a full schedule for the year. On top of this initial bourbon release, we have about 6 special releases coming out this year, and we're finally at the point where we're comfortable focusing in on some cask strength releases. So our next Super Collider, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with any of our Super Collider releases. They've historically all been fruited rye, to where we take whatever fruit we want to use and co-ferment that with our rye grain, then run that entire mash through the still. That's going to be our next release, and it's a blueberry rye. And we're doing it at cask strength, which is right around 114 proof, 7 years old. So yeah, we've been sitting on this barrel for 7 years now.
Wow. Yeah. And that's the thing that strikes me, Daniel, as you're talking, is that you have to be part scientist, because the process of making these different spirits are all so precise. And yet you're part artist, because it's not so much room inside the scientist side to be creative and bring different flavors to that. But then you're also having to play the role of the mystic to say, all right, what's this going to be like 5 years from now, 7 years from now, 10 years from now? Will people even give a crap about blueberries 7 years from now? Who knows what tastes are going to be like? Our society changes on a whim, it seems like. So hats off to you for taking on all those different challenges simultaneously.
Yeah, I mean, that is a perfect way to describe sort of distilling and aging spirits. Yes, we know the exact science between, how the chemical processes happen, whether it's when you're cooking the mash or fermenting the mash or distilling the mash. Like we fully understand those chemical processes, and we fully understand the chemical processes that happen in a barrel, where, with the expansion, the contraction of the barrel, and, summer to winter, and then the breaking down of wood sugars. Like, we know how that all occurs. But once you put a spirit in the barrel, you don't know when it's going to occur. And you don't exactly know how it will occur in the barrel. I mean, because you can have 2 barrels with the exact same distillate sitting right next to each other on the same floor of a rick, and they will taste different. So it's sort of a perfect mix of science and then artistry, because you do have to have, both a passion for the scientific side of it and a passion for the craft and the art of making and aging these things.
Yeah, and you don't really get to know. It's not like if I want to go play with some eggs today, I could make one set of eggs and taste that. It's like, all right, well, if I change the ingredients out, let me put oregano in there instead of basil. Now what does it taste like? You gotta wait for years to find out. And if we make this little change here, now what is it? Well, all right, let's just sit on it for 5 years.
Right. Yeah, I remember when I first started at the distillery, they were telling me about this blueberry rye, and I've never tasted something like that. It is definitely a very kind of experimental, out of the box style of whiskey. You just don't see it done. So I had no idea what to expect when we finally popped the barrel to taste it. And I guess the best way to sort of describe the flavor profile would be taking our sort of core line rye fidelity and finishing it in a port barrel, and you pick up all those wonderful berry jam kind of notes, but without the increased sweetness that you would get from an actual port barrel. So it's still like a very sort of, very lightly sweet, tart, sort of dark berry jam element running through the whole thing, from, the nose to the palate to the finish. You get like all this wonderful sort of dark Nutella notes. And then, of course, like the coffee notes that we always have in there, and all that big, bold rice and spice. It turned out to be a beautiful, beautiful whiskey. And I'm excited that we're releasing it at 114 proof, because I'm a longtime whiskey nerd, and I love my high proof whiskeys.
Mm-hmm. So when is that coming?
It should be within the next 60 days. We're just waiting on sort of all the final label approval from both, the federal government and the state. So we're hoping to have that out in the next 60 days. And then after that will be our second bourbon barrel release, which that one we're doing cask strength, and it's coming in about 120 proof. It's all be a 4 year straight bourbon. So for us, we thought it would be really cool to do this initial release at 85 proof, even though most distilleries would do a 4 year bourbon and do it as a bottle of bond at 100 proof. But not everyone likes 100 proof whiskey, unless, you tend to be a little bit more of a serious whiskey drinker. Most people tend to prefer that lower proof, which is fine and completely valid. So we went with 85 proof for this initial release. So anyone in the community that was interested in trying our bourbon would be able to drink it and not go, whoa, this is hot.
Right.
And then
more accessible.
Right. And then the second release will be a cask strength release for the more dedicated whiskey drinkers. And then moving forward, all of our bourbons will be at least 100 proof.
So if we want to get one of the big Winston bourbons that are coming out tomorrow, what's it cost us to get the one that's signed?
It's going to be the exact same price as the non-signed ones that go on sale this Saturday. It is $45.95 plus tax, and we were expecting for those to sell out fairly quick. It's been the amount of interest that not only the local community has shown, but people across North Carolina has been just phenomenal. It's, emails, engaging with people on social media. Everyone seems to be extremely excited about this release.
So, is it pre-order anytime, or is it tomorrow is when you start ordering?
So tomorrow will be the first 100 bottles. That's all that will go live on the site, and those are going to be the signed number ones.
What time does that happen?
That happens at noon tomorrow. Okay. So at noon we will update inventory on the website, and then those 100 bottles are available to the public. And then if someone's not able to get one of those bottles, they'll have to come to the distillery on Saturday the 23rd.
Will John be there to sign those?
He'll be there. I don't know how many bottles he'll sign.
Okay.
On that day.
Okay.
It'll be exciting to have that kind of buzz behind what you're doing. Makes your job a little easier, doesn't it?
It does. It does. It really has been a blast, and we've been, just excited with how much more interest, not only the Winston-Salem community, but North Carolina as a whole has been showing in Broad Branch over the last 8 to 9 months, which, I mean, it's fantastic. We've had, larger whiskey reviewers reach out to us recently about some of the products we're going to be putting out, which is fantastic. We're having more opportunities to sit down with folks like you that, highlight different businesses and in the local community. So things are going much better than anyone would have expected in the middle of the pandemic.
Well, I'm sure part of the highlight on the business was due to the pivot and shift of hand sanitizer. That brought a lot of recognition to you guys in this area, and in the midst of the bad time, that was a really good thing for you guys, I think, because it again brought brand awareness outside of the alcohol or the drinking alcohol aspect, but then turned around and probably built on the drinking alcohol aspect.
Right. And, that was in no way like a part of the plan.
No. I'm not saying it was a money grab. I'm saying that you guys pivoted and saw a need, and why not? I mean, you're just throwing that stuff away otherwise, right? So, why not use it?
Right. There's zero hesitation from anyone on the team. It was just, for us, we looked at it as a way to be able to help the community. And I think it wasn't in about 2 months in that we even monetized it at all. For the first 2 months, we were just, giving sanitizer away to anyone that walk through the door to make sure everyone in the community had access. We had to sort of ration out sanitizer for, the local law enforcement, EMTs, and some of the medical workers that came in. And then about 2 months in, when we realized this isn't going away anytime soon, we figured out a way to both be able to support the community and also, keep the business moving forward.
Right. And I don't think anybody faults you for, I think it was more than generous giving the stuff away at the beginning. And I think that no one's going to fault you for trying to, it's still product that you used. So why not recoup some of that cost? So I totally am for it. Give you a thumbs up and congratulate you on that, because it is now part of your business plan. so
do you need, fill a need?
Yeah, that's right.
We know some of the local knitting manufacturers switched on a dime to start doing masks because we needed that. Thanks. Yeah, exactly. We need more people thinking like that.
Right. And it was really nice to see, different businesses around town like step up to, either help each other out or help out, people in the community. I think that's one of the wonderful things about Winston-Salem. People really care about Winston-Salem, and they care about keeping Winston-Salem, Winston-Salem with all of its small businesses that are here, and making sure the galleries are still there, and places like Mixer, which is a wonderful maker space on Industry Hill, stay open. The local community really values all these small businesses that are owned by people in the community, and it's just been, if there can be a silver lining from the pandemic, the silver lining was that, a lot of people, businesses, and private citizens stepped up over, the last 9 to 10 months to make sure we kept as many businesses here viable as possible.
Yep. Well,
I've been doing our part to keep the drumbeat going of, hey, go talk to folks, go see them, go visit them, Go
Right.
eat with them. Go drink with them. Come on now.
Yes, exactly. So Daniel, what more do you want the listeners to know about the Big Big Winston Bourbon or Broad Branch, the Big Winston Bourbon? I can't even say it now. So the Broad Branch, or anything else that you guys have going on? Anything else you need to know?
Really, the main thing is for people to tune into our social media feed. We have a lot of great things happening this year, both within the spirit world and like things we're trying to help out with in the community. So just tune into our social media. We care about Winston-Salem, and we want to help our community as much as we can. So between the special releases and some of the things we're trying to do within sort of community sport world, we're excited about 2021.
And for anybody who is under a rock and doesn't know where Broad Branch is, can you give the pertinence and all that stuff?
Right, we're at 756 North Trade Street, right downtown. We're next door to Fiddling Fish, sandwiched between them and the Sunshine Energy Drink sort of corporate headquarters, where Black Mountain Chocolate used to be. So that whole area right there is where we call home, and everything happens there on site, from grinding the grain to the barrel aging and bottling.
So we can also say right across the street from our official sponsor, Mojito.
Oh yes, and we've started creating like a really good relationship with those guys. They just put a food truck right between the distillery and Fiddling Fish, and up until recently, you could come to the distillery during our cocktail service hours, which are Friday evening from 5 to 9, and then Saturday 1 to 9 p.m. But before the food truck showed up, we had their menus, and they would deliver food to anyone that came to the distillery. So
are they not going to do that now?
Well, they just set up the food truck, so I think they're going to focus on what's coming out of the food truck to support the Big Winston warehouse facility.
Sure. I thought Michael had told me that they would still do that, because the food truck, the Tuning Fork Provisions truck, will be American bar food and won't offer the same stuff that they have across the way. So I'm pretty sure you can still order Mojito and get that delivered, because it takes them 3 seconds to walk across the street. So I think they'll still be able to do it.
Well, if that's the case, the menus will still be sitting on the barrel.
So, yeah, because Michael told me he did not want to compete with himself. It's a whole different ball game, the bar food versus the Mojito's Latin soul food. Right. So, yeah. So,
well, not everyone wants, traditional French fries while they're, having a beer or having a cocktail with us.
Sure.
So it's nice to have options.
Absolutely. It always is.
Especially good options.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yes. Well, Daniel, I really appreciate you coming on and talk with us today, and I'm going to try to get in there tomorrow at noon to get me my bottle.
Bring up the website at 11:59, and I'm pretty sure it's gonna be F5 Wars for people refreshing to get in there.
Okay. Well, I'll see if I can, like just getting tickets from Ticketmaster for a show. You keep clicking, click. Oh, I'm in. So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you again for being here, and we look forward to tasting everything that Broad Branch has going on. So we will talk with you very soon, I'm sure.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a blast, and we'll have to do this again sometime soon when we let some other new things come out.
Absolutely.
Yes,
you keep us informed on when things are happening, and we will make sure that people know about it.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel.
All right. Thank you once again to Daniel Spivey, the head of brand development for Broad Branch Distillery. Looking very much forward to the big Winston bourbon. I'm going to try to get on tomorrow.
Adding to my calendar right now. Noon tomorrow. Get on at 11:50.
Yeah.
refresh.
Yeah, I'm going to try my best to get one. So we'll see what happens. Before we go to the food holidays, I want to talk about Washington Perkin Provision Company that is located at 301 West 4th Street. You can find a little bit of everything there at the Perk, a chip corner, a deli to get your sandwich on the go, local fruits and veggies, meat and dairy also from local sources, Bingo Bango sodas, Wolfie's custard, a wall of beer and wine, and more. Washington Perk is better than a convenience store, but not quite a grocery store. On Facebook, they are Washington Perk or at Washington Perk _DTWS on Instagram. Today is the 18th of January, and it's National Peking Duck Day. I just always.
I've ever had Peking duck.
Yeah, I always picture like a duck standing around a corner, just barely looking around.
Just peeking around.
It's a Peking duck. Yeah. So I also whenever I think of Peking duck, I think of Christmas Story. At the end when. They have to go out and fra rah 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 rah, all that stuff, and then they have the duck there.
Yeah, all of it.
Yeah. On the 18th in 1778, Captain Cook discovered the Hawaiian Islands. He named them the Sandwich Islands after Lord Sandwich, who was the first lord of the Admiralty. Admiralty, not Admiralty. Admiralty. 10 years later, in 1788, the first English settlers arrived at Botany Bay on Australia's southeastern coast near Sydney to establish the penal colony that Australia would become.
Mm-hmm.
In 1907, John James McLaughlin of Ontario was awarded a trademark for Canada Dry Ginger Ale, and the paperwork said it was the champagne of ginger ales.
Oh, that's funny. Knowing that same phrase would be used later for something that really isn't what it said it was.
Hey, now let's not knock some Miller High Life.
It's really not the champagne of beers.
Well, champagne's not the most sought after wine either. So,
I mean, it's good for a little. Hey, we'll have a toast and a little sip of champagne. But yeah, I don't want to drink a lot of champagne.
No. In 1943, on the 18th, pre-sliced bread was banned in the U.S. for the duration of World War II to conserve metal
bread for you.
to conserve metal from spare parts that might be needed. So they were going to dismantle bread slicers to add to what, tanks? I don't understand what.
Yep. Guns.
Yeah.
Tent poles. I mean, whatever else was needed for the war effort.
Yeah.
So you got to slice your own bread now. How you like that?
This must be before privatization of weaponry manufacturing.
Yeah.
On the 19th of January, it's National Popcorn Day.
Ooh.
And it's also Tin Can Day because in 1825 on the 19th, Ezra Daggett and Thomas Kensett of New York City were granted the first patent for food storage in tin cans. They had been canning seafood since developing the process in 1819.
And you do get to keep something a whole lot longer in a can. So, it was important for us.
So true. On the 19th in 1883, Roselle, New Jersey becomes the first town in the world to be lit up with Edison's incandescent light bulbs. The overhead wires powered 150 streetlights, the railway station, and about 40 houses. Can you imagine being one of those 40 houses?
I've got light,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
You know, truthfully, there are days I'd love it if I had a BB gun. I'd shoot out the street lights around here just so it would have a little darkness. You know, it's night. Anyway.
That's a good thing about where I live. You know, I am in the city limits, and I am just 7 minutes from downtown Winston-Salem, but I'm on 20 acres, and when it's dark, I mean, you still see like city lights. You can still see the glow, but on a clear night, it's really awesome.
Yeah, you still got some light pollution.
Yeah.
But, it's nice that right there you could actually have some darkness around the house.
On the 19th in 1944, the U.S. government relinquished control of the nation's railroads after settling a wage dispute. Here, y'all can have this back.
We're done with this. We don't want nothing.
In 1977, on the 19th, snow is reported in West Palm Beach, Florida for the first time.
I think I may have been living in Florida when that happened. Because, we had it in New Smyrna Beach, which was north of there. Yeah, it freaked everybody else out. They weren't used to it.
In 1996, a barge ran aground near Block Island National Wildlife Refuge in Rhode Island, spilling 1.8 million gallons of oil and creating a 12-mile oil slick. Which I know you flip out over those things. I don't know who it was that did it. It was just a barge. That's all it says.
You know, when we look at the benefits of fossil fuels,
and here's the pause.
We look at the harm that comes from fossil fuels, and we've got example after example after example.
Yep. We'd probably have not a whole lot of fighting to do in the Mideast if we got rid of them.
If we're not fighting over the oil, what's there to fight about? Desert?
Yeah. We have one of those too. We don't need.
I want to live there. I will fight you for that patch of sand. By God, I will.
I hear there's an oasis close.
You know, if we could, I mean, I'd love to see us moving to something that is more sustainable, because there is only a finite amount of oil that's on the planet, period.
Right.
It may be big, but there's still a limit. And once you burn it all, well.
Yeah. On the 20th, it's National Cheese Lovers Day, which I'll be participating in because I am a national cheese lover. I love almost every kind of cheese. National or international.
Great day to celebrate with a beer.
A beer, that's exactly right. National.
Maybe some whiskey.
Why not? You know, my favorite flavor alcohol is alcohol. So my favorite flavor cheese is cheese.
By then you'll have your big Winston bourbon.
I hope
Maybe
so.
That'll go. What would that pair with? What kind of cheese would you pair? We gotta find these things out. We gotta know.
I gotta take the one for the team and figure that stuff out.
Yep, and then share.
And also I have a platform here. On the 20th, it's National Coffee Break Day, which is always January 20th, which celebrates the founding of the National Coffee Association in 1911, one of the oldest trade associations in the U.S. It's National Butter Crunch Candy Day.
Oh, Butterfinger?
I don't know what constitutes Butter Crunch candy. I don't know. It's also Paul Stanley of Kiss's birthday.
Oh, well, that's a big deal.
I think he'll
not
be
really food related, but it's still a big deal, especially to
you. We can always bring it around. Let's go back here. You know, they're in the band Kiss, and Hershey's makes a kiss, so we'll go with it.
Okay, tenuous, but I see it. We'll take the connection.
It's also Inauguration Day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, it's a good thing that our democracy is moving forward.
Yes, indeed. On the 20th in 1920, aluminum pot salesman Irwin W. Cox, inventor of the pre-soaped steel wool pad to clean pots, registered the SOS trademark. Do you know what SOS stands for? Not the help.
Soap on steel?
No, save our saucepans.
Save our saucepans.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Stillwell does that.
In 1964, on the 20th, the world's largest cheese was made, a 34,000-pound cheddar. It was created by the Wisconsin Cheese Foundation for the 64-65 annual meeting of the Wisconsin Dairymen and Cheese Makers Association. I'm sorry, it was made for the 64-65 World's Fair. It was consumed at the Wisconsin Dairymen and Cheesemakers Association. It took 170,000 quarts of milk from 16,000 cows to make that.
A lot of cheese.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And where
You
did
can
they
just see
store
it now.
it?
It's like, here, take some home. Okay, come here. I don't know who you. Just take some cheese, please.
Well, where did they store it?
Well, I mean, something like that you don't have to refrigerate, right?
I don't
Cheddar.
know.
When it comes in the big wheels, right?
Yeah, I guess. But you still had to store it somewhere until you cut it open. And once you cut it open, it was just like, you got to go with it.
Yeah, you're right. It does pose some logistical issues.
Yeah. On the 20th.
How can we consume that much?
Yeah. That's some serious blockage right there. On the 21st. Let's see if I can figure out. Not that one. Not that one. This one. There we go. I always do that.
It cracks me up when you hit the Franks and Beans.
I know.
Franks and Beans! Franks and Beans!
You can hear. Shh, 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 shh. So the 21st is National Granola Bar Day. It's New England Clam Chowder Day, which I had clam chowder in Boston, where is basically what people consider New England. At the, I think it's the Union Oyster House, but that one wasn't as good as the one at the Sail Loft restaurant. The Sail Loft restaurant was amazing. It was the best New England clam chowder I've ever had. And I think it was the dill. The dill was what made it.
We did not have New England clam chowder at Clementine's. It was corn clam chowder.
Yeah.
It was so good. I know I said that. It was so good.
So was it any good?
It was awesome.
The
I want
21st.
more.
The 21st is also National Squirrel Appreciation Day. It was founded. It was founded in 2001 by Christy Hargrove, a wildlife rehabilitator in, of course, Asheville, West Virginia, North Carolina, because food sources are scarce in midwinter.
We appreciate the squirrel. Here's how you can bake a squirrel. Here's how you can saute a squirrel. Here's how you can go.
Here's squirrel gravy recipe. Yes.
Come on now. I mean, how many of those you got to cook to actually make a meal?
I don't think that they're talking about cooking the squirrel as much as just appreciating that there is an annoying rat in your yard that runs around. Yeah. That's
Okay.
In 1908, on the 21st, New York City makes it illegal for women to smoke in public, which is asinine, but that's whatever. In 1976, on the 21st, the supersonic Concorde commercial aircraft, built with funding from the French and British governments, I was about to say bitter governments, but, it's French and British, began regular service on that day, and I think they went out when? In 2008, 2009, something like that?
Oh, you're going to ask a hard question. I have no idea.
Yeah. On the 22nd, National Blonde Brownie Day, also known as a Blondie. A National Hot Sauce Day.
That's a baked thing
Yes.
that you're talking about.
Yes.
Let's be clear.
Yes.
We're not talking about blonde brownies other than cakes.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Did I mention it's National Hot Sauce Day? And if you're going to do a hot sauce, may we recommend Winston-Salem original Texas Pete hot sauce from Garner Foods.
There's some right here.
Yes, I have a large bottle in my fridge too. Last week we talked about Carrabba's and the concept that they were doing with the Tender Shack. It turns out, because I was talking with Daniel Butner a little bit, he came to look at the table because I need some work done on it. But it's not necessarily a Carrabba's thing. You know, we were talking about it's a ghost concept. It's the company that owns both Carrabba's or I don't know how own is the company that the umbrella of Carrabba's and Outback are both under. It's DoorDash only. It's not branded as Carrabba's or Outback, but both Outback and Carrabba's will make it. So wherever you are, according to your geographic location in Winston, you may get it from Carrabba's, you may get it from Outback. So it's just dependent on that. But speaking of Carrabba's, they are located at 587 South Stratford Road. This is no chain. I can guarantee you this is a responsible family of restaurants. Carrabba's and their owner partners take the communities they serve very seriously. And for us, having a fantastic franchisee like Daniel certainly does not suck. Follow Carrabba's on social media and at carrabbas.com. On the 22nd in 1959, the 7-ounce seamless recyclable aluminum beer can is introduced by Coors in Golden, Colorado.
Why?
I don't
We
know.
want to give you a tiny beer.
Well, you know, why do they make the small Cokes and ginger ales and all those things now too? Sometimes, you know, the pony bag beers from like Miller High Life, you get them in the small ones. Sometimes you just want a beer but don't need the whole thing, I guess.
Maybe.
Yeah, just enough to piss me off, I'd say. On the 22nd, in 1984, the Macintosh computer, the Apple Macintosh computer was introduced in a TV commercial, 1984 style, meaning like Orwell 1984, in 1984, during Super Bowl 18. And 2 days later, they went on sale to the public. 18.
And we thought they were
84.
amazing.
Yeah. Who
We
was
look
that?
at them now and go, my game console does more than your computer.
Who was Super Bowl 18? Was that
The
Raiders?
phone does more.
I think the Raiders beat the Redskins with that. I think.
The 1984 Super Bowl.
Yeah, it's either that one or Dolphins and Redskins. I think it's the Redskins and Raiders though.
I think it was the 83 Super Bowl that was the Dolphins and the Skins.
Yeah, so 84 was
Okay, the one that 84 was the Redskins and the Raiders. You are correct.
Okay. Yeah, I remember
what was the
watching that.
score?
Oh God, I don't have a clue.
Raiders won 38-9.
Yeah, that's the big Marcus Allen run that was so spectacular. In 1988, on the 22nd, the first airport cow lounge happened. It's exactly what it sounds like. Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, which I have flown into, opened a special departure lounge for cows, serving pre-flight food and drink to traveling cattle. I don't know.
We got some pre-cut food for you here, if you'd like. Little sip of milk to go and help wash it down.
Get your fresh cud here.
Really? Cows are stupid. They're lounged. We can find them. They'll figure that out.
Hey, good milk comes from happy cows, man. If they,
Like I can just see it now. Bessie, would you like to have a massage?
Yes.
And I better stop because it's about to go. It's about to go way south from there.
Well, moving on. The 23rd of January is National Pie Day, not to be confused with Pi Day, which is March the 14th, 314.
That's
This-
PI Day.
Yes, but this is National Pie, P-I-E Day. On the 23rd in 1862, Augustin whatever his name is, brought
Oh yeah, him.
brought 1,400 varieties of
Call him Bob.
grapevines from Europe to California in 1862 and planted the first large vineyard in California in the Sonoma Valley. After the phylloxera blight destroyed much of Europe's vineyards, some of these same vines, now on resistant American rootstock, helped save the European wine industry.
Well, if it hadn't been for the U.S., y'all would have been toast.
Again.
Yeah, once more.
On the 23rd in 1963, 3 million gallons of soybean oil flooded the streets in Mankato, Minnesota, when a storage tank ruptured. Eventually, the oil ended up in the Mississippi River. In the spring, more than 10,000 ducks were found dead in the wetlands along the river. On the 23rd in 1971, the coldest temperature ever recorded in the United States was recorded at Prospect Creek Camp on the Alaskan Pipeline. It was minus 80 degrees.
Ooh, that'll freeze your niblets off.
Yes, you sneeze and you run into it. You poke yourself in the eye if you sneeze.
Oh man.
The 24th, another holiday I can get behind, National Peanut Butter Day. Yes. It's also, speaking of beer cans, it's Beer Can Appreciation Day. We'll get to that in a second. I don't necessarily.
I so appreciate all you've been feeding me for the last 16 ounces. I love you.
We'll get to why here in a second, I think. In 1922, Eskimo Pie Patent Day, Christian Nelson, an ice cream salesman in Onawa, Iowa, was issued a patent for the Eskimo pie. In 1935, the beer can, created by the American Can Company, was introduced in Richmond, Virginia by the Gottfried Kruger Brewing Company of Newark, New Jersey. The products were Kruger's Finest Beer and Kruger's Cream Ale. So,
Interesting.
yeah. In 1950, on the 24th, Percy L. Spencer received a patent for the microwave oven, and it says it was a method of treating foodstuffs. Whatever.
Reading it.
Yeah, treating it. Yeah. Not heating, but treating.
Yeah.
In 1956, on the 24th, and this is why, Procter & Gamble introduced Jif peanut butter.
Oh, there we go.
Yep, not my favorite, but there we go. 1985 on the 24th.
Peter Pan.
Huh? I'm a Peter Pan guy. Yeah, absolutely.
Me too.
Coca-Cola announced it had received permission to sell Coke in the Soviet Union, just as they were preparing to change the recipe. Sure, we'll learn about that in a couple of weeks.
What a big mistake that was.
Yes, in 1996, on the 24th, the U.S. FDA approved the fat substitute Olestra, brand name Olean. Olestra is unapproved for sale in many countries, including the European Union and Canada. Side effects include abdominal cramps and inhibition of vitamin absorption. But here in the United States, it's still legal.
Somebody paid somebody.
Have you met my lobbyist? This is Craig. He's my lobbyist. Well, anyway,
Gonna show you a good time.
yeah, that's your food holiday in history for the. Yeah, nothing says good time like abdominal cramps.
Yeah. and a failure to absorb your nutrients from your food.
That's right. Ugh.
You'll lose weight that way.
As well as other things.
Oh, yeah.
That's your food holidays and history for this week. Special thanks to James Ehler at foodreference.com for making us chuckle, roll our eyes, wonder why the hell cows get better treatment than regular people at airports, and why people eat Jif peanut butter when Peter Pan is available.
I don't understand it.
The Man Who Ate the Town podcast is part of the Less Desirables podcast network. Along with this podcast, you can listen to the Less Desirables, the Beer Dads, Fan Interference, Wheeler's Dog and Asylum, Tales from the Devereaux Diaries podcast. You can find all these podcasts and their latest episodes on our network website and directory, tldpodnetwork.com. You'll also find social media links for each one there as well. This is a reminder to all of our listeners, is good practice, not just now, but for always. Wash your damn hands. Wash them with warm water and soap. Wash with that soap for about 20 seconds. If you don't know how long 20 seconds is, just think of this song in your head.
Driving home this evening, could have sworn we had it all worked out. You had this boy believing, way beyond the shadow of a doubt. Well, I heard it on the street. I heard you might have found somebody new. Yeah. Well, who is he, baby? Who is he? And tell me what he means to you. Oh, yeah. I took it all for granted, but how was I to know that you'd be letting go? Now it cuts like a knife.
Yeah, so that album turns today 38 years old. Yeah,
I think it's been that far back.
I know. 38 years old. Well, keep an eye on my blog and this podcast to find out more about the food news and happenings around town. If you have any food news, send us an email at Tim or Leah or Ray at themanwhoatetown.com. You can also connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter Instant Messengers. Like us on Facebook. On Twitter, we are Man8 the Town. And on Instagram, we are Man Who Ate the Town. And now we invite you to call and leave a voicemail for the podcast. Actually, any podcast on the TLD network. You can call 336-422-6862. That's right, 336-422-NUM. Leave us a voicemail. We'll play it on the podcast. Again, 336-422-NUM, 6862. I don't know what I was going to say. I do want to thank Daniel Spivey from Broad Branch one more time for coming on the show today and sharing with us or enticing us with the Big Winston Bourbon. I can't wait to try it.
Excited about that.
Yes. So my name is Tim.
My name's Ray.
And we are closing the recipe box. Jeez. Until next time, thank you for reading and thank you for listening. Bon appetit. Yamas. The views and opinions stated by me or any of my guests are solely those of ours and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of our hosting companies, distributors, enemies, friends, or relatives. This podcast is copyrighted and cannot be reproduced or distributed without express written consent of the Man Who Ate the Town, that's me, and Such Limited Inc. However, if you ask nicely, we'll probably let you.